Hey everyone, my name is Julia Braxton, and I am the Educational Technology Coach, also known as the SBITS or the School Based Technology Specialist here at South Lakes High School. I am going to take a few minutes just to tell you a little bit about the technology that your students, as well as the teachers at South Lakes, have access to, and to let you know a little bit about what I do here so that if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. And just so that you have a little bit more information at your fingertips so that you know how to best support your students in their use of technology. So that's what I look like. Here I am. And just so that you have a bit of background about what it is that I do, as well as what our T specs do, they're also known as our technology support specialists. Here's a really helpful chart that our staff got just because our paths kind of cross a little bit and sometimes people get a bit confused. My role really has to do with educational technology in terms of like what's on the computers and the educational and instructional aspect of what your students are doing. So when it comes to the tools and applications that your students are using, as well as the coaching and the use of those tools when it comes to what the instructors and the educators, the teachers are doing with that technology. So on the left side here, this is me, and this is what I work with teachers on as well as students. And then when you're thinking about the actual hardware that your students are working with, the actual Chromebooks, if your students have like a cracked screen or their laptop is not turning on, if they lose something, if they need to pay for a charger, that's not me. That's going to be our T spec. So if you're needing to send them to the tech office to get something replaced, or if they have to pay for something, that's really going to be our T spec. If they're troubleshooting something, that's going to be our T specs. And we have two of them, Kate and Ryan. That's what they look like. So sometimes you're going to be dealing with our T specs, and sometimes it'll be me if it's something like Schoology or something happening that is really more like of an online issue. And many things like resetting a password, their teacher can do for them. Pretty much any adult in the building can reset a password. That's not really something that you need to call the tech office for. Everybody is equipped to do the more common problems, but these are what our responsibilities are. And so I'm going to talk to you mostly today about the this part up here, the educational technology tools and apps. So what do all students have access to? These things on the screen right here. And the ones in the middle are probably the most used tools in our school. So your student has probably talked to you about Schoology. You also have access to Schoology. So that's our learning management system here in FCPS. All teachers are really encouraged to post pretty much everything on Schoology, and that's because you as parents have access to Schoology. So you can see the work that students are being assigned, as well as ideally their grades and their feedback on what they're doing. We are hopefully you're seeing most of their teachers posting their work, their assignments, their due dates, materials on that platform. They also have access to many apps through Schoology via Clever. So on Schoology, there are many different applications that teachers use to give them access to textbooks as well as other learning platforms, and they access it through Schoology. There's also, as you can see, a number of other tools, and everything on this slide are things that no matter what, every single student has access to. Performance Matters is a testing platform, and you see here Google Workspace is something that everybody has access to and is automatically downloaded onto their Chromebooks. So we actually, in FCPS, it's technically called FCPS Google Workspace for Education. So in our case, that includes docs, slides, sheets, Google Drawing and Sites. All of those things are included, including their email. And so basically, they're going to sign in with their fcpsschools.net email address. And all of that is what we call inside of our walled garden. So anything they create in that Google workspace is pretty much protected and allows them to pretty much communicate with each other students within FCPS, and staff with fcpsschools.net emails. And they can do that from school or home, and it's just within that secure environment. It does from time to time create some hiccups if they're trying to share something with somebody outside of FCPS, but it also makes sure that things are secure. They do not, as of right now, have access to Gemini, but that probably will be changing in the future as we open up access to artificial intelligence, which you will be learning more about in the future as those tools become available. The tools on this screen all require parent digital consent. Hopefully, at this point, you have signed your digital consent form. Ideally, you would have done that online. Some of you may have signed paper copies. All of the tools on this screen, students will not have access to unless you have expressly given your consent. You might be surprised at the tools that they don't have access to unless you have given their consent. So all of the tools on the left side are the most commonly used tools in the classroom. YouTube, they won't have access to unless you have given your consent. And believe it or not, like, teachers do use quite a few videos from YouTube and will sometimes give homework that requires students to watch videos, and they won't have access to that unless you expressly give your consent. Same thing with Google Earth, Google Maps, Google for Education. These are all tools that students will not have access to unless you allow that. All teachers have all of the tools that you'll need to be able to grant that access. It can also be found on FCPS's public-facing website. But if you need to still give your consent, you can do that online or reach out to me or any of your students' teachers to give you the link to give your consent. You can also, I believe, find this on SIS through Parent View. So these are just a few of those tools that they will not have access to if you don't do that. So it's just really important to do. Hopefully, the vast majority of you have done that already, but it will be imperative that students have access to these tools if you haven't given it already, if that's something that you wish to give your student. And it looks like this when you go online. So if you've seen this page before, then you've probably already done it. And you can see your student's status here. So in step 2, that is what these colors mean. So if it's gray, that means that you have not given your status yet. If it's green, that means that you are all set. So congratulations. But this is where you would go to see that status. Next, a really common question that we often get is about what exactly are your students doing online? So there are 2 ways that you can view this information. The first is the Lightspeed Parent Report. This is sent to you every week on Sundays. So if you're wondering, where do you find this? The subject line in this email is Filter Portal Weekly Report, if you're searching for this in your inbox. And the from is do_not_reply at lightspeedsystems.com. That's what you're going to be looking for. And then this is what that report looks like. So you can see exactly how many websites they've browsed, an average of how many pages they're looking at a day. And then you can see by day how many pages they visited, and then their top 10 visited hosts. If this is not enough for you and you want even more detailed information, you can self-enroll in a Lightspeed Parent Portal, or rather in the Lightspeed Parent Portal. And once you do that, and it looks like this, you're going to click log in or register. Once you register, then you'll have access to your students' weekly online activity report. And that's going to give you the top 10 visited websites, the number of pages that they visited per day, the total visited websites, and the average daily page visits. Once you get that, you're also then going to have the ability to pause your child's usage during non-school hours, and then you can also see what sites are allowed and blocked. You will not have the ability to block websites on your own, but you can see what websites the school has blocked or teachers have blocked. And then if you want more detail beyond that, if you have concerns about your students' usage, you can contact their administrator. So that's about it. If you have any other questions, please do reach out to me. This is my email, and I'm so happy to talk to you about any concerns you might have, any questions that you might have about educational technology. Again, if it's a hardware thing, that would be the T-Specs, Ryan Richardson or Kate Misner. They're going to be about anything that is a question about hardware, so your actual device, your child's device. But if it has to do with instructional technology, that is me. Thanks so much, and I hope this was helpful.